No stranger to the show anymore. Gino Barbaro from Jake and Gino. You guys have probably seen Jake and Gino on social media. They're all over the place. Multifamily educators, more than educators, they're investors. So, Gino, you're not somebody who, bought one apartment complex and then created a course. You guys have $300 million in assets under management and 1,800 units. At what size was your business when you decided to build, the mentorship program of your business?
Andrew, we call ourselves the gurus. We're the gurus who are actually doing it. And I think that's the important distinction, because if you're going to get into business and you're going to teach somebody about real estate's constantly changing. And by the way, we're closing our third deal this year. So we're still in acquisition mode. We're just focusing on the assets that we're really focused on ourselves. But we started back in 2015-ish, end of 2015. We wrote the book, Wheel Our Profits. At that time, we had a little over 200 units. And I said to myself, I'm going to start this mentorship. I'm going to monetize and make a ton of money. It's really hard to make money in education. But what's really great about education is you become a much better investor. I've been able to speak to Michael Franzese this week, the mob guy. I've been able to speak to JP Sears. I've been able to speak to T. Harv Eker, Robert Kiyosaki, Dr. Gary Chapman. The list goes on and on. Ken McElroy, all the high-level investors. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars would I've had to spend to be able to speak to them? That's what the education's allowed me to do. And we've gotten to be such better investors through it. I live by the mantra, learn, do, and then teach. And then from teaching, you'll learn so much more from your students, and you'll learn so much more from what's going on in the business world. That's how we came out with the buy right, the manage right, the finance right, our three-step framework. That's how we came out with the honeybee, creating multiple streams of revenue. We were doing it, and we're like, you know what, let's document it, and let's get really focused on our business. And that's how we're able to scale our businesses. And oh, by the way, this is great. Let's create a brand so the brokers know us. Hey, Jake and Gino's looking for a deal. And all of a sudden, that gives you much more exposure. So if you're going into the mentorship or education just to monetize, you are missing the bigger picture. The opportunities that come from mentorship are immeasurable. They're innumerable.
You mentioned learning from your students, which I think is like a really cool thing to say, because you're not just telling them. You're actually gleaning and learning off of them. I read a stat that your students have closed close to 100,000 units and spent how many billions of dollars in deal volume? It's astronomical.
It's pretty cool because the students, and like any other venture, it takes a couple of years to start. So in 2016, there wasn't that much momentum. 2017, 2018, then all of a sudden you look back in the last 7 years, we're at almost 80,000 units the students have closed that I can document, that I can go out and say, hey, John closed 50 units, Mary closed 30 units. They've raised over $400 million for deals. We don't typically syndicate, Jake and myself. We use our own capital, but we've syndicated 3 deals, and we've taught students how to build that brand and how to raise capital. And it's over $5 billion in deal volume. And that's why the community is awesome. You're not joining the community for a couple of YouTube videos. You can watch YouTube videos at home. You're building it because you know what? I've got a coaching call next week. I better get my homework done. And I'm coming out to this event next month. I've got a deal. Where am I going to find the capital? Oh, there's students in that room that have capital. I'm looking for a partner somewhere. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone to hold your hand and to help you along, because when you get kicked in the gut, we're talking about, or you get punched in the face in business, you can slink away. I didn't have that opportunity because I was not letting my partner Jake down, and I'm not letting the Jake and Gino community down. So I'm going to put out as much as I can every day, not to let them down. I'll let myself down, but I can't let them down. So that mindset of doing that will keep you going. That's what I love for me about the education personally.
Gino, are your students, the members of Jake and Gino mentorship program, are they all over the country? Is this pretty much a national brand?
They are. And I'll tell you something that's really interesting. When we were going through our avatars, Andrew, you are one of our avatars, people in the single family space that want to get into multifamily. They just know that single family is great, but if I can close 1 or 2 deals a year instead of having to close 10 or 12 deals a year, wouldn't that make sense, right? That's number one. Yeah. Number two, anyone who's a professional, who's a doctor or a lawyer, wants to get into it, they can get in the syndication route. Anyone has a small business, understands the business world. Well, you know what? Multifamily really is an extension of the business world. And I think the third set is people who have multifamily. They may have 10, 50, even 300, 400, 500 units, but they need to scale. that manage right portion of the framework, we really excel at that because we love to teach it. We're vertically integrated. We have our own property management company. So if you're out there, whether you're looking to scale a property management company or whether you're looking to hire third-party property management, that's where the challenges come. And we're there to hold your hand. We have coaches that can teach you all about that. That's really important.
This may not be a fair question, but you got me thinking a little bit as you were talking about scaling and helping people scale. To me, the holy grail is when you get your portfolio grows to a point where you can grow out of net income and you're not having to raise money, you're not having to refinance profits out and plunge to the next deal. At what point do you think is the right, scale where you can do that? You can grow out of income instead of refi or raising capital.
Andrew, that's a really excellent question because it's different for everybody, but I can share with you our journey. And for anybody who's getting into it, don't quit your day job today. I actually stayed in the restaurant business for 5 years from that first day I met Jake when he moved down to Knoxville in 2011. It took us 18 months to find the first deal. I may have been able to leave after that first or second deal, but I said, no, let me reinvest my profits back into the real estate and let me live off of my income that's coming from the restaurant. It took me 5 years from the day I met Jake, 3 years after I bought that first deal. So within a 5 years time span, I was able to leave the restaurant, focus on real estate full time. And at that point, I was cash flowing more than enough to live off of real estate. And then from there, our mindset, our mantra is let's buy a couple of really good deals a year where we know we can force the appreciation. And our mindset was let's refinance these properties. It's a loan back to you. So it's not what you make, it's what you keep. You have the tax benefits of cost segregation where you're not paying taxes. There's another accelerator. The velocity of money becomes really great at around year 5. You're able to reinvest all of that money, the loan, the proceeds from refinances, the tax savings that you have into the next deal, and you continue that party along. By year 7 or year 8, you are man, air guitar at that point, brother.
Yeah, I love it. Talk to us about cost segregation. That's a topic that people are slowly starting to become more familiar with and comfortable with. Nobody was doing it in the single family world in my world until really a year or so ago. Is that a strategy that you like for everybody getting into multifamily?
It's one of those things where it really is, it's an engineered study. It's macro accelerated cost recovery system. Now, I'm not an accountant, not going to give any legal advice. I know a guy. If you want my guy, I can connect you with my guy. Well, it basically does, it breaks down the components. Multifamily is depreciated over a 27.5-year time span. You're going to be breaking it down into 5-year, I think 10-year and 15-year buckets. Flooring may last 10 or 15 years. Roof may be 27.5 years. Fixtures may be 5 years. What ends up happening is you front load all that depreciation. And, the 2017 Jobs Act made it 100% bonus where you're able to take all that depreciation the first 15 years and front load it all 100%. Now, end of 2023, it's going down to 80%. And I think in 2024, it's going to go down to 60%. But still, you're really accelerating the depreciation. You're able to wipe off a lot of depreciation day one. And it's a phenomenal strategy. Now, if you are a real estate professional and you're in the business of real estate, you're able to take all of that depreciation and put it up against your income, your active income against those losses. I mean, a lot of investors have negative adjusted gross income. They don't end up paying federal taxes. For those of you who are not real estate professionals, you're just getting a massive amount of depreciation where you can, wipe off any passive income against those passive losses. I would still do it. By law, accountants have told me, accountants have told me that it's really sort of required. It's an engineered study. You're breaking down the components, and then you can do something called a recapture. When you're doing a roof, you can actually recapture more cost segregation as well. I'll just challenge everybody, drive down the street. When you see a hotel every 3 or 4 years doing their fixing up and they're painting and they're replacing a roof or doing a driveway, that's based on the tax law. Tax laws are based on stimulating behavior, and they're getting tax breaks for doing that. They're doing it for their business, but they're also doing it for tax breaks. So if these big corporations are doing it, why aren't the mom and pops like Andrew, like Jake and Gino doing it? And one last point, the reason why you're doing it in single families, the cost studies have come down dramatically
100%.
because of the technology. So if you have a house that's worth $250,000, $300,000, I would still see if cost segregation makes sense on that deal. I would venture to say it would.
100%. Yeah, you can get it done on a single family home for $400 to $450. It's kind of a do-it-yourself study, but it's based on, thousands and thousands of units. There's big sophisticated accounting firms that do it. Jake, have you guys gotten to the point where you're self-segregating as you spend CapEx on a project, you're repositioning an asset, you know exactly what you're buying. You're spending money on a roof, you're spending money on cabinets. Are you segregating as you pay invoices within, QuickBooks or however you pay bills?
Yeah, we have Appfolio, so we actually do that, and it's important every year that you're doing that. We have that CapEx, and it's funny. I was going through my CapEx calculator with my bookkeeper today. Basic amount of CapEx you have in there, and as you're doing it monthly, bills going in, what are you replacing, and then you're going to see how much money you have budgeted every month, and then we're taking a look at how many units we're turning. We bought a property in January that 132 units. Now we're end of November right now. We have almost 90 units out of that 132 completely repositioned and returned, and what we call on a Jake and Gino lease. So you need to keep track of that because, man, you throw receipts in the garbage, you're throwing money in the garbage.
Yes, totally agree. It's funny how you get into the business and every single year you look at your general ledger and you're just like, or your chart of accounts rather, and you're like, we need to change this on the chart of accounts because I want to dig into the numbers a little bit more. But yes. I mean, back to your point, you're trying to squeeze every little drop of net income out of that business because that is what is valuable to you in the multifamily world. I mean, in single family world too, but that's what you can sell. Do you ever sell anything?
We do. We've sold around 600 units. We've sold our syndications. We've gone full cycle on 2 syndications. We sold a couple smaller deals where they became functionally obsolescent. We had a portfolio of 146 units we bought back in 2017. We sold an 18 unit because it was up on a hill. We got a great price point for it. We made money on it. So we just took that money and bought another deal. There was another 20 unit portfolio in there that had central air. It didn't have central air. It had in-wall air units. Resident base wasn't what we wanted, but we made a ton of money on it. So there's always a reason why we're selling these assets. We're not selling them just to recoup capital. We're selling them because we want to either reposition the money, or the market's at a high and we can't extract any more value from this. Or if you don't like the area, if you don't like all of a sudden something that's going on with the market, you should sell that asset. And, fortunately for us, we love the Knoxville market. So when we buy something, we focus on that buy right criteria that we had mentioned. That asset fits that buy right criteria. Why wouldn't we want to hold it for 10 or 15 or 20 years?
Love it. Gino, until we meet again, this has been great. Thank you so much for the time being on the show. See you in just a few minutes, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.